Welcome to the Ayurvedic Study Series. This is a special area on Dhatu, and specifically today we're going to talk about Rasa Dhatu. So if you find yourself here, I assume you are somewhat familiar with the terminology. If you're not, I would recommend that you sign up for our Principles of Health program. It's a 12-step program that takes you through the foundations of Ayurveda, or consider studying with Dr. Amruta with us for our 500-hour professional Ayurveda program, which will follow up with mentorship with me. So today we're going to move right into understanding some of the deeper concepts and functioning of Rasa Dhatu. So this is a great review for those of you that are in the field of Ayurveda and taking a deep dive into each one of the tissues. So in the Ashtanga Hridayam, Bhagavad says the chief function of the body tissues, or the dhatu, are said to be in order: nourishing, enlivening, surrendering, lubricating, supporting, filling, and give rise to an embryo. And we know that the tissues build themselves in somewhat of a pecking order, starting with rasa and ending with shukra or artava. And as we get through to Shukra Dhatu, that would be where we're giving rise to the sexual reproductive system, and eventually Ojas, which is helping to bring healthy children into the world. So I find a lot of weight to this quote because we talk a lot about the concept of healthy conception being such a pillar of Ayurvedic care and working with community. And the number one way we work with community is to bring healthy children into the world. And so awareness of Dhatu is actually really important. And for us as practitioners or Ayurvedic health advisors, we want to be really clear, not just on how we're working with dosha, Agni, Ama, Mala, but how we're working specifically with Dhatu to make sure that the nourishment goes from tissue to tissue all the way through, both giving rise to healthy embryo, but also giving rise to healthy ojas within ourselves so that we can live a long and healthy life. So just to recap on the 7 dhatu or tissues, rasa is the one we'll be talking about today. That is the plasma. Rakta is the blood. Mamsa is muscle. Meda is fat. Asti is the bone. Maja, the nerves. It's the bone marrow also. And shukra or artava, the sexual organs and tissues. So Rasa Dhatu, we call it plasma, but it's also the serum, the lymph, the white blood count. So it's similar qualities to kapha. As you'll see, the qualities of rasa are liquid, oily, slimy, cool, heavy, soft, slow, and sticky. So if we're building kapha in the body, we are generally building the qualities of rasa as well. The primary tastes affecting rasa are sweet and salty. So if you increase the sweet and salty taste, it's going to increase Rasa Dhatu. As you could see, increasing salty could increase kind of a false rasa, where you're actually just increasing fluid retention. The function of rasa is nourishment, regulating temperature by distribution of heat in the body. The updhatu or subdhatu is breast milk and menstrual discharge. And the rasa sara, or the most positive expression of rasa, is a beautiful, soft and smooth skin, soft hair, strength, compassion, faith, clear perception, and love. Okay, all very kaphic things. So rasa is formed, right, by ras agni, or the, if we're thinking about agni, we've got our central gastric fire, jatha agni, but then there's also tissue agnis. So for us to consume food, it goes through primary digestion, and then we've got this ahara rasa, this byproduct, positive byproduct, that is the essence of food. And then you've got what's left over, right? That becomes more kaphic. But that essence of food has to be processed for it to become the nourishment for the tissue. And for rasa to take in the ahara rasa, that essence, it's got to be processed through rasagni. There's got to be some transformational heat. And so when that's happening, we're ending up with ahara rasa. So we end up with the dhatu itself. We also end up with the updhatu, the subtissue. And we also end up with this precursor for the next tissue, which would be rakta. So then this precursor would go through the same process of raktagni, processing what's left of the Ahara Rasa to become Rasa Dhatu. Okay. So improper functioning of Rasa Dhatu. If Rasa is increased and Rasa Agni is decreased, does that make sense to you guys? So it's not getting digested. So there's high qualities or these properties: the liquid, oily, slimy, cool, heavy, soft, slow, sticky. These qualities have to be processed by the digestive concept in the tissue for it to become healthy tissue. If these are too high and the Rasagni is too low, you might see lymphatic and venous congestion. You might see repeated colds. You might see bronchial or sinus congestion, water retention, edema, swelling, excess salivation, feeling heavy in the heart and pallor, right? Those are all signs of high kapha, essentially, in Rasa Dhatu. If the quality of rasa is decreased, so there's less of those tissues, but the Rasa Agni is increased, so it's functioning, but there's not enough in there. We might see anemia, dehydration, dizziness, skin disease or dry skin, emaciation, excess thirst, fatigue, hypersensitivity to sound, heart palpitations, shock, and you might see a stopping in the menstrual cycle. The causes of this could be heavy food, cold drinks, which is going to do what? It's going to halt Agni. Overeating, oily and fried foods are increasing pitta, the fire in the body. Leftovers, excess sugar, excess salt, pickles, hydrophilic substances. So they're increasing the water content in the body. Also, yogurt, cheese, cucumber, watermelon. Poor food combining, if there's a parasites, bacteria, or fungal infection, viruses, excess ama, thinking too much, worry, and anxiety. And I put this in another chart because I like charts, and I find I'm a very visual learner. So again, signs of excess may include kapha, phlegm, mandagni, low digestive function, nausea, ama, where signs of deficiency in rasa might be increased vata, right? So if it's in excess, you're seeing increased pitta dosha. If it's in deficiency, it's increased vata dosha. So then you're seeing signs of vata, like dryness of the skin, rough skin, fatigue, emaciation, heart palpitations, sensitivity through the sensory channels, ringing in the ears, all vata things. Amenorrhea, infertility, low quality and quantity of blood, lymph, skin tissue, heart pain, and feeling empty. So all, again, high vata symptoms. Then here's another example of Rasa Dhatu Dushti. So this is when it's the tissue now is corrupted by different dosha. So if vata is in Rasa Dhatu, and we have to remember this is the first tissue layer in the body. So this is in the accumulation and aggravation line if we're looking at a pathology chart, right? So we eat food. If we eat food and engage in a lifestyle that is vata or aggravating, we then in the central gastric fire have too much of the qualities of vata. It's going to act improperly in there to create irregularity. That high vata is eventually going to spill into this first tissue layer, which is rasa, right? And we might see then dry skin, rough patches, poor peripheral circulation, thin skin, dry itching, lack of sweating, or numbness, okay? If pitta was increased and provoked through diet and lifestyle, as it overflows, it's becoming aggravated and accumulated and then overflows, it's tipping over into Rasa Dhatu. We might see redness, inflammation, yellow discoloration, high fever, swollen lymph nodes, or a sore throat. Okay. If kapha was increased, you're seeing things that are then kapha signs like mucus, vitiated skin and lungs, some of the seats of kapha, warts, cysts, fungal infections, wet eczema, damp skin, facial swelling, cough, white sputum, swollen glands, nausea. And you can see some of these are very visible. So when you're working with clients, or if you're looking through this for yourself, you can actually tell when some of this is happening and already affecting Rasa Dhatu. We've got signs through our skin. So how do nutrients reach each dhatu? And this is kind of an interesting 3 different theories. We've got the milk and curd transformation theory. So this is saying step by step transformation from, and this is rasa, not rakta, to shukra, like milk to curd, is saying that rasa is completed, it's converted to rakta. It's completed, it's converted to mamsa. It's completed, it's converted to meda, all the way to shukra, which is then the most refined form of nutrient-dense tissue. So this suggests that if there's nutritional deficiencies, it's happening in sequence, like obesity leading to bone loss, nerve damage, and fertility issues. It's going in this like step by step, because one tissue is creating the next tissue, and that tissue is creating the next tissue, right? The irrigation transmission theory of how nutrients reach dhatu is that there's a progressive overflow, like a water irrigation in a field. So dhatu's nourished by the nutrients, what's left flows over. What's left flows over. What's left flows over, tissue by tissue by tissue. Again, from rasa to shukra. And in the pigeon pecking selective theory, the dhatu takes the nutrients from ahara rasa, from the pool that it wants, like pigeons selecting grains. But that's assuming that there's some sort of higher level of intelligence, that it's grabbing what it needs. We don't necessarily know that, but those are 3 different concepts or theories that were mentioned in the text. Let me know which one resonates with you. It's kind of interesting. There are herbs, however, that have a specific action specifically related to each dhatu, and we're going to go into that today for rasa. So that's called the dhatu karma. And so there are herbs that are rasa promoting or increasing. These are primarily made of the water element. So anything increasing kapha, like we talked about, is increasing rasa, especially those with heavy liquid qualities. Then rasa reducing, these herbs reduce excess water. They then would reduce kapha. These include dry, rough, hard, and penetrating substances that are bitter, pungent, astringent, and warm. These herbs also work for fluid retention. Okay. So what are some common foods and herbs that increase or decrease rasa? So increasing, shatavari, licorice, bala, flaxseed, amlaki, sariva, aloe vera, along with sesame oil, dairy products, salt, and fruit juices. What's depleting? Pipali, that's long pepper, dry pepper, black pepper. So that would essentially be the trika-2 mix. Musta, bitters and astringents are all going to decrease rasa. So if someone has low quality rasa, you want them to avoid the bitter and astringent taste, right? We think about cultivating the opposite. So if we think about these, and again, please don't recommend herbs if you're not trained in herbs, but I am, and I find it very interesting. So shatavari is reducing to vata and pitta, but it's increasing to kapha. This is bitter, sweet, cooling with a sweet vipaka. Okay, so it overrides the bitterness. It's a digestive, but it's soothing to the mucous membranes. So this is why it's so good for high pitta. It gives strength. It's a rasiyana, it's tonifying, and it increases ojas. So this is increasing the bulk in the body. It's bru hana. Licorice, vata pitta kapha, reducing, but increases kapha in excess, but it is sweet, cooling, sweet vipaka. It's heavy, it's moist. It helps with the digestive system. It benefits all dhatu. It is contraindicated sometimes, so please do not recommend licorice to anyone unless you are trained specifically understanding it. Sariva, also commonly called anantamu, is vata pitta kapha reducing. It's sweet, bitter, astringent, cooling, again with a sweet vipaka, so that's kind of overriding the bitterness. It is light though, but it's unctuous. It destroys ama. It cools pitta inflammation. It relieves burning sensations. It clears excess of all three dosha, helps stimulate the appetite in pitta prakriti without aggravating acidity. It rectifies mand agni, that is not Mandarin, it is mand agni, which is kapha in agni, sluggish agni. It draws excess vata down. Okay. Bala is vata pitta kapha balancing. It's sweet, cooling, sweet vipaka, post-digestive effect. It's heavy, unctuous, clears high pitta and kapha, but can increase kapha and ama, increases bulk, and nourishes all tissues. Okay. Amlaki is pitta and vata reducing, kapha increasing, sour, astringent, bitter, cooling with a sweet vipaka. It's light, dry, primarily for pitta and vata, but it increases ojas, which is super cool. So it does then increase kapha also. It's indicated for digestive sensitivity, small doses for constipation. Sour taste squeezes the liver, gently detoxifying it, nourishes the heart, increases immunity, and is high in vitamin C. And the rasa reducing herbs would be gugalu, due to the pungent, bitter, astringent, heating, pungent vipaka. It's light, penetrating, dry. It can aggravate all the tissues, kindles agni, purifies the blood. You could see scraping, right? So it's lightening to rasa dhatu. And we talked about long pepper and black pepper, which are also pungent, heating, sweet vipaka though. They're going to be light, dry, penetrating, stimulating to agni, destroys ama. There's a scraping, reducing quality to them. And musta is another pungent, bitter, astringent, cooling, pungent vipaka, light, dry herb that's enkindles agni or stimulates digestion. So it does have an overall lightening effect to the body. Okay. And these are the herbs, and pay attention to this. These are rasa pachak, which means rasa agni stimulating. So if rasa agni is low, you're eating food and it's not being processed into high quality rasa, you could use these patol, which is the pointed gourd. This is kapha reducing though. So you want to only take this in small amounts. It can really aggravate pitta and vata and kapha. Kataja is another astringent, pungent, bitter. It's dipana though, it's a digestive, and amapachana, so it digests ama. And kutaki is literally means pungent. It's a bitter, pungent, cooling herb. It's acting dry and light, and it has an affinity for the plasma and blood in the circulatory system. It's also a dipana and a blood purifier. So again, you're using these in really small amounts, then taking the herbs that you're trying to get into Rasa Dhatu. And again, reach out if you want more information, but I find this interesting for people that study herbs. So supportive herbs for rasa disrupted by excess dosha. So specifically for vata, we would use fresh ginger, tulsi, aloe, shatavari. These are going to be stimulating and nourishing the molsons. So they're going to be really soothing. For pitta, we'd use neem, aloe, and peppermint that are more cooling to the blood, alternatives and anti-inflammatories. And for kapha, you use dry ginger and trikatu, which are going to be more pungent, bitter, and astringent. Okay. And some considerations for dosha for each dhatu. So with vata, opposite therapy for high vata would be decreasing bitter, astringent, pungent, cold, and dry foods, slowing down daily routine, oil internally and externally, increasing warmth, focus on regularity to build regularity. For pitta, we decrease pungent, salty, sour, fermented foods, reduce competition, reduce or sharpness, decrease excess heat and high intensity activities, add cooling, calm practices, and slowing down. And for kapha, opposite therapy would include decreasing sweet, sour, salty, cold, heavy foods, adding activity and dynamic and increasing heat and spicy warm teas. Okay, so that's just general diet and lifestyle with considerations of dosha for Rasa Dhatu. Okay, we're going to stop there. We'll move on to Rakta in the next session, but go through this. I would watch this again, take some notes, think on it a little bit, and reach out to me if you have any questions. And again, I would sign up for some of the other courses if you need to, so that you get a little bit more backstory and can continue your Ayurveda studies. So take care, guys. Thanks for joining me. Peace.